Welcome. Before I actually kick off, I would really like to notice that the venue is pretty amazing. I'm glad that we are improving every year. I've been with the Agile by Example conference since the beginning, and it's of course the biggest so far. In fact, I actually deleted some of my slides because I thought my font was too small, and it wouldn't be visible. I shouldn't have done that. Anyway. I'm going to talk about how we implemented Agile in my team. I'm Michał. I work in Millward Brown, which is a market research company. We started doing Agile around 2 years ago, and here I want to share some tips, do's and don'ts with you, with the hope that at least some of you might draw some value of it. Much of my presentation, much of my talk is actually complementary to what Kuba said earlier. It's a pity that we couldn't fit in the same slot. In fact, I think we could actually split our presentations, and one from his, one from mine, and it also would work great. So maybe later during the break we can also exchange some ideas. A disclaimer first: by no means I consider myself an expert in this area, so please treat this with enough distance, and I don't know whether everything that I'm going to say makes sense in all the contexts. These are just some lessons we learned. The good thing about my lessons or my memories is that they are still pretty fresh. We are still doing this, we're still getting there. So again, if you want to catch me later, I'm happy to have a talk. Again, I work in a market research company called Millward Brown. That's not really important. We have a fairly small internal, I'm leading a fairly small internal software house that works within the company. We sell our products, we sell our services to many different Millward Brown units. That's also not that important. What's important is that, again, 2 years ago we decided to do Agile. Well, we didn't really decide it together. It was my decision. I knew Agile back then because I was attending Agile Warsaw meetings already. I found it interesting. I found it value, and I wanted to do Agile. I thought that my team would do Agile, and since, well, I'm leading the team, so I'm leading the team, so I could basically kind of dictate the conditions here. Well, the important thing is that again, we are kind of 2 years into this, and again, I'm going to share some tips. So first, I can barely see you, but I hope, yeah, I can see some of the hands. I first want to check how many of you are actually doing Agile. I know that's the wrong question to ask, as some of the speakers mentioned earlier, but if those of you who are already doing Agile could raise your hands now, that would give me some idea, okay? Well, probably, yeah, the other question would be easier. Who of you doesn't do Agile right now? Okay, a few. Again, this talk might be more valuable for you rather than the other crowd, but again, hopefully you'll get some value. The first lesson and the most important thing about this presentation is that implementing Agile is not an easy task. It's an effort. It's definitely not something that comes as a silver bullet or a magic wand that you touch and everything suddenly, is solved. It's effort, but it's also very rewarding. I'm drawing this as a first lesson and essentially the bottom line of my whole presentation, because one of my biggest mistakes was assuming that it's going to be easy. I thought really that it will just work. I thought that it's going to be painless. I learned the hard way that this was not the case. It's important to realize that it seems fairly simple as a framework, KANBAN, scrum, whatever, just a simple set of rules. But essentially, to follow that, you have to have certain level of discipline. You have to have certain effort. You have to stick to the rules. And if you don't come prepared for that, there might be a lot of frustration along the way, and that's not really needed. When I was thinking kind of retrospectively why I thought this Agile implementation is going to be a easy thing. I realized that, as I said, back then I was already attending Agile Warsaw meetings. We have a great community here in Warsaw. We meet pretty much every month. And I saw this bunch of guys. They were doing Agile. And I mean, I just saw that they made it look as it's so simple and so, you know, easy, so like such a nice game to play that I wanted to be in this team. In fact, it's not that easy game to play. Again, it's very rewarding, but prepare for some obstacles up front because yeah, it will make your life easier. When preparing for the obstacles, and again, this is pretty much the same slide that Kuba had, I think. When preparing for the obstacles, the first question you need to ask yourself when you're thinking about doing Agile is why you want to do it. Do you want to do it because it's cool? Do you want to do it because others are doing it? Do you want to solve your own problems, or do you want to, you know, solve some problems that the team has? I know what my problem was. I saw the business growing. I wanted to, you know, have the team growing. I knew that we couldn't be really growing without any reasonable process. So I thought, well, my problem is scalability. I want to be able to scale up. So let's introduce some process. But this was my problem, my why. It wasn't the team's why. I would really recommend for any of you who are thinking about this to start with a kind of objective statement or mission statement upfront together with the team. So realize what your problems are, start with the problems together with the team, maybe even go further and try to, you know, measure the level, to think of what you want to measure in order to say, yeah, we got there yet. We got there finally. Again, important from my perspective is to include the whole team, not only you as a leader when thinking about this implementation. Another lesson, start small. When you're starting small, it's easier than when you're starting big. And you know, when you're 2-3 developers and you're doing your stuff great, you don't really think about those things. I mean, things just work, and you know, why care? The thing is that it's much easier to introduce certain rules or ways of doing things when the group is much smaller than to wait till you actually reach the size of when it's really needed and essential, because otherwise you would just collapse under your own weight. So there is this kind of optimum team size. Well, different books say different things, but say between 5 and 10, 8 people. I would definitely try to start doing, if you are considering doing Scrum, I would even start with, I don't know, 2-3 people. I personally think it's easier and it's totally feasible. And again, it's much easier to, once you have an established process, once you have an established structure, to you know, grow and add new people to this structure, rather than, you know, just go from 2 to 3 to 4 to 8 and then realize that you really need to change something. When you're already 8, there is a lots of, you know, things people like doing. There is lots of, I would call it like cultural depth, just how people work, and you know, managing change in this group will be difficult. Again, we started thinking about introducing some process, introducing Agile fairly late. We were already around 8 people, and I think it would be much easier if we would consider it earlier. Another lesson we learned, painfully, is that you should get help. We didn't, actually. We decided to do it our own way, which also has its benefits, but there are really lots of people out there, lots of coaches, lots of trainers, consultants who are eager to spend their time and help you do these things right. Again, coming back to the first lesson, that it's not easy. Maybe this was one of the reasons that we thought, well, it can't be that hard. I mean, can it? Well, you just do some stand-ups and retrospective and whatever. Everything is written, so you just need to follow the rules. Where in fact, you realize that you have a lot of communication, you have a lot of things to manage, and now suddenly you have all this different structure to work with, and things can fail, different things can fail, and then you are, you see this for the first time, you don't know what to do. It's cool to be able to reach out to someone who has seen similar things in many different contexts, who can say, been there, done that, here's my advice. It's also important to distinguish between training your people and coaching your people. Again, I think this is also something that Kuba mentioned, that training your people on sending them on a workshop or two and just then say, well, no, do Scrum, won't be enough. They don't know, they won't know how to do things. It's an ongoing process. So it's cool to be able to bootstrap the team with some external help. I would definitely agree, and I'm sure there are plenty of people within this room who could, help us or help you. Okay, another thing. Very early in the process, in this journey, you realize that you need some process. So you need to think about how you do things, not only do them. I essentially see Agile as improving the way you work. So I know eliminating waste, improving efficiency, whatever. I don't really care about metrics here, but just you have to realize what you do and how you do it in order to be able to improve it. And there needs to be certain kind of mutual agreement within the team on how you do things. What are the roles? What are the interactions? Who are the stakeholders? They need to develop a common language around these things in order to be able to do Agile, in order to be able to improve. I mean, in a way, Agile will force you to do it anyway, because again, I mean, otherwise I think that you would just spend your retrospective meetings doing nothing. But it's good to come prepared. So it's good to think about these things up front, so that you know this, you have this vocabulary already in place. Okay, another thing is respect your time. This is again one of our own lessons. Agile, of course, is about experimentation. You want to try a lot of things, you want to do a lot of things, you want to check a lot of things. But then again, you need to stay focused. So you need to make sure that you are doing actually the things that bring value rather than waste. It's very easy to get distracted. I remember our first retrospective meetings that would last for hours and hours, endless discussions. It's definitely something good as a benchmark, but to compare to what we currently have. But again, it shows how fragile this framework is. At least in my opinion, how easy you can, especially if you are not experienced, if you don't have help. How easy you can abuse certain artifacts or certain rules. So respect your time, time box whatever you can, stay focused, don't let yourself distract to many different things. Another lesson we learned, and that's pretty obvious, that some people just don't fit. I've read recently that there is an estimation. I usually don't trust those numbers. I'm actually both a computer scientist and sociologist myself, so I kind of don't like quoting statistics because I know too much about it. But say there's 30% number that people quote when they say, well, you have to realize that when you're implementing Agile, 30% of your staff will quit. This was not that bad for us, but there was definitely people who, had issues with this new way of working, and it's fine. I mean, when you already have a structure and you already have a way of working and you're bringing change, you have to realize that those people it's a kind of it's a significant change to the way they work. So maybe you were, you know, they got into your team or into your company because they liked the way you work, and now you suddenly expect them to change, and you know, for them it's like changing the rules of the game. So some people won't fit. You have to be prepared to have some conversations with certain people on, you know, you have to be able to manage this. On this note, I also on this note I want to share a story of how we did this. Initially, when thinking about agile implementation, I decided I'm going to send 2 people from my team to this two-day Scrum workshop, and I picked 2 guys: team manager, who I knew, you know, was the key person to manage this change, and a guy who I knew is fairly conservative, and I knew, you know, he wouldn't necessarily oppose to Agile as such. He would oppose to anything. So I thought, okay, I'm going to try to convince this pessimist first, so that hopefully once I have him on board, the rest will be much easier. Guess what happened? I mean, of course it backfired, because not only I did not convince the pessimist, but he learned enough about the framework to be able to challenge it along the way in much heavier way than he might have if, you know, he didn't know a lot of things. So I later read a lot about how not to spend your time and money and effort on those who are pessimists, and I confirm it, yeah, from my own kind of case. And it's much better to focus on those who are open, who are, you know, willing to try new things, and then let them to be your spokespeople along the way. Now, again, on this note, it's also important to realize that when you're implementing this change, when you're bringing this new culture into your team, you will probably need to bring new culture to your recruitment process as well, because you will start, you will need, you know, new skills, you will need new kinds of people, so your recruitment process will also need to be changed. We had to change ours, definitely. And I also really like the presentation from Pavel, how, you know, to bring this diversity or cumulative intelligence, no, what was the word? Collective intelligence, yeah. It again shows how many things you need to kind of adapt and inspect and adapt when you're doing this. It's not really about, you know, suddenly starting to meet daily with a team. You are, if you're doing waterfall or I don't know, code by coding, as we essentially did back then, you want to do agile, you're really, you know, turning everything upside down, starting from your recruitment process until you know, the way you communicate with each other. Other suggestions. Don't start with Kanban. Kanban is a deceptively simple tool, and at least in our opinion, we thought, well, it's so simple it cannot possibly not work. So let's just start with that and try to build on top of that. In fact, what happened was that we at some point realized that you know, Kanban blocks us, or you know, we don't really know how to manage the flow in these new rules. Kanban, although it's very simple as kind of the first glance, it's also, it requires certain discipline. So if you want to start with one thing, I would definitely go for Scrum rather than Kanban. I don't know whether people here would agree, but again, in our case, Kanban did not work. We had to switch to some more, say, formalized or more rigid framework, such as Scrum. Another suggestion, if possible, start with new projects. And even if you have an ongoing project that you have, and maybe it's the most important project in your portfolio, I would still encourage you to try to start with a smaller project that's fresh and new. Because you know, with a project that's already there, with a lot of technical depth and other kinds of depths, you are, at least in our case, you might be constantly challenged with this. Well, we cannot do this because it just doesn't fit the current structure. We cannot do continuous integration because there is, you know, too much bugs to fix, or etc. Now, when you do new things, when you start fresh, then everything is in your hands, and you have control on many more. I mean, you, as in the team, has control on many all the aspects of how they develop stuff. And it's really amazing. We had a team with very similar knowledge about Scrum, starting fresh, starting with new project, and starting with a project that was already, you know, there. And the level of agile fluency, the level of how they do things, it's just mind blowing. I mean, in fact, how I would do things right now is that I would let the fresh team start, do their work for, I don't know, 3 months, maybe 4 months, and then try to educate others on how to do things, and hopefully, you know, let others to pick stuff from them. Don't use separate artifacts. This comes back to the question of why you want to do this. You know, you don't want to do Scrum just to do, I don't know, daily stand-ups or do grooming or whatever. I sometimes when I read discussion boards, there are people who want to try Agile and say, I want to try Agile, should I do Kanban, or maybe I'll just do Scrum stand-up meetings. This thing comes as a package, yeah. So, you know, in Management 3.0 book, there is this interesting chapter about how these different aspects of those frameworks kind of support each other and help each other. And I really agree with that. So don't use separate artifacts. I mean, it's not only about the tools. If you have a cool Kanban board, great. If you have a cool continuous integration server, great. But doing Agile, it's more than just simple tools or simple artifacts. And if you really do need to start with only one single artifact, for whatever reason, I mean, maybe you're just afraid, or, you know, you don't have permission for your management to do much more, I would really encourage to start with a 1 hour weekly retrospective, which is time boxed, and, you know, you're just focused, you track your actions and improve your process with that. Again, because I see Agile essentially as a continuous improvement practice, so, you know, Agile, Lean, according to Michał, much of the same principles. Retrospective meeting to me is an essence of Agile, in a sense that this is where you improve your process. This is where you eliminate waste. So if you really need to start with only one thing, start with 1 hour weekly retrospective. Okay, checking time. These are finishing thoughts right now. We kind of made a circle. It's not easy. It's not easy to do it. At least, again, our experience says it's not easy, but it's great. It's rewarding. When you see things work, you just, at least myself, I'm amazed. But on the other hand, just doing things right is not easy. I mean, delivering great software, it's not. Why should we expect things to be easy? I mean, if anything, if anything, Agile actually shows your problems. Yeah. So if you're doing Agile, you need to be prepared to see a lot of different problems. About, you know, the way you work, the way your people communicate, etc. But the thing is that in order to deliver value, you need to solve a lot of problems. So in a way, now when thinking about it, it's obvious that it cannot be easy, because you know, doing things right is not easy. If it was, then there will be too many people doing the right thing. Okay, so. The final question is, are we there yet with our Agile implementation? I'm going to shut up for a second and let you watch the video, which hopefully will give you an idea of what I want to say.
Are we there yet?
No.
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 Are we there yet?
You little...
Homer, I think we're there.
Woohoo!
Springfield comes to Universal Studios. It's the all-new Simpsons ride.
Happy times.
Opening spring of 2008. Don't miss it.
Are you there yet? We are not. Again, I see Agile as continuous improvement, so maybe it's better not to be there yet. Notice that the car actually brakes when they reach, so maybe it's better to stay on track rather to aim for the final goal. Final 2 slides, thanks and kudos. First, for my team, who is great and who, you know, this is, I wouldn't be standing here talking to you if it was not for them, so thanks guys. Some of them are actually here. And also thanks for the Agile Warsaw community. Some of, well, all of them are, I think, also organizers. So Marek, Mateusz, Piotr, I think you're doing a great job. Keep the Agile Warsaw community growing and, you know, sparking new ideas. I hope to meet you guys soon. Thank you.